Hey everybody, I'm not going to have a long live stream on this, but in the wake of the Derek Chauvin verdict, which found him guilty on 3 counts um, for reasons not explicitly stated, the Raiders public relations staff, which controls the social media, decided they would put out this tweet. What does that mean? I can breathe. And then not only that, what makes it equally or all the more so troubling is that this happens to be the date of legalized marijuana. And so are you saying that you can breathe and smoke marijuana on this day that George Floyd's killer was jailed? I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever. I can breathe. And everyone on Twitter has just went nuts. What the Raiders should have done, and they haven't taken this down, okay? This is up as I speak. This is no trick, all right? If I refresh the screen, right, as I'm doing right now, it's still there, okay? And that's perfect Raider fashion. You know, they don't take anything down. They just do it, right? And that comes from Al. Never admit a mistake, which I think was not one of the better aspects of Al Davis. Everybody should be able to say that they're wrong about something, you know, but hey, all right. And they're really, and you would say, why did they do this? I have my theory, and it has to do with the makeup of the Raiders public relations staff. It consists of 3 people. And, you know, all, as you would say, like good people, right? And I know Will Kiss for years. Will Kiss is the director of the public relations or part of the Raiders, and he's the person who really bears the responsibility for issuing this. It wasn't some gigantic decision where they roped in everybody. This is something that was done, and it may not even have been knowing Will him. It might have been something that one of the 2 people that work under him did. And in this administrative page, we find that they are, we find that they are Kate Agostin and Everett Gearlings. And I'm trying to zoom in so that you can get a better view of their names. And here comes the legendary Bill Carroll. Hey, Bill, how you doing? I can't hear your mic for some reason. Maybe try resetting that. But as Bill is resetting that, and I presume I'll be able to hear him, soon. Let me keep enlarging this for you all as I zoom in, and then zoom in, and then zoom in. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, I just needed to change one setting.
Oh, okay. Bill, what the hell is wrong with the Raiders? I have my own theories.
Well, quite a bit, Zinni. I mean, how much time do you have? I mean, first of all, and you and I both know this, Mark Davis is not a bad person, but
no,
he's just a member of the Lucky Sperm Society. It's not like he did anything great to achieve his current position. He just happened to be born to an individual who was an incredible hustler, innovator, hardworking, smart, entrepreneurial person, and then he's Mark. And so now he gets to inherit this. So he's tried in some ways to follow in the footsteps, but it'd be impossible for almost anyone to follow. That's a tough act to follow, Al Davis. Let's be clear and honest about that. And unfairly, you can't not compare the father to the son. I get compared to my father. It's hard not to compare fathers to sons. But it's a comparison that does Mark Davis no favors. So when you add to that the Raiders are as an organization are bravely venturing into the late 1990s, only 20 years too late, or so. There's a lot working against them. They do a lot of things that wouldn't have looked so bad 20, 25 years ago, but unfortunately it's not 20, 25 years ago. They always seem to be just a little bit behind the times recently, Zenny. And I'm not going to put it all at the feet of Mark Davis. I think there's a lot of people all throughout the organization who cling stubbornly to the past as opposed to embracing the future. And why that is, I don't claim to know. But it's something that seems to be consistent in several different parts of the organization.
Will Kiss I've known for years. Like I say, he's a good man. Katie Agostin. I don't know. I believe I may have met her if it's the person I'm thinking about of. If it is, then it's not a good look if she is responsible for social media and everything. Now here's the thing.
You're being tried. Yeah, it's
I went through and looked at the social media for them, and what I found, Bill, how would one say, it confirmed my suspicions. Okay, first of all, let's start with Everett Gearlings. Everett has a Instagram page, and on the Instagram page, it would seem, basically, how would you say, innocent, but for this situation, all right. But for this situation, here is his Instagram page. Let's start from the top, okay? And
football stuff. Okay, cool. Okay.
But there's something that's telling here.
Big giant ugly fish. Okay.
Okay. Here it is. All right. Let's just go down. He doesn't post much. All right. But it doesn't take long in going through his postings to note that he doesn't have any black friends in it.
I guess the closest would be the late Kobe Bryant and his daughter. It's the closest he seems to. And of course, I don't know if he ever met them, but he at least has a picture. That seems to be the picture.
And I think that this one is more of interest here. The boys in Grand Rapids, all right, where he's okay, all white guys.
There's one kind of beige-ish looking guy here who maybe, I don't know, Armenian, Greek, who knows? I guess that's about as close as we get. The guy right
all white guys, and my point is that you grow up when your friends are, as black folks, are basically colleagues in a sense you work with and manage their communications. If that's it, what comes out when it matters the most in this instance, okay, there's another black person who, again.
Oh, there we go.
All right. A player. Okay. All right. But look, all of his friends are white. White friends. His heroes, athletes, Tiger Woods. This is beginning to look like Do the Right Thing. Look at that?
Right. Yes.
And okay, so, and you go all the way down here, and it's a consistent theme.
Yeah.
It's a consistent theme. He's got white friends. If he has a black friend, it's really not so much a friend as someone who's a player. Okay.
Right. Yes.
All right. And it's really a very sad look for.
Well, let me say something. If you look at the executive class in the NFL, right? How many of them do you think have a decent number of friends that don't look like themselves? Right? I mean, I'm just being clear and honest here. If you were to look through Charlie Casserly, who probably didn't have an Instagram page. Oh, he was a wrestler in college, apparently. But if you look through Charlie, Facebook, whatever Charlie Casserly has, how many black friends do you think Charlie Casserly has? How many black? I mean, Mayock I know has a few, but a sprinkling. I don't know about Gruden. That would be an interesting experience going through. Gruden, I don't think has an Instagram page. I don't think. If he does, I bet it's hilarious.
You couldn't catch John on here.
No, I didn't think.
I'm not willing enough to know that. But I mean,
No.
but here's you would say, okay, what about
Yeah, he was a wrestler. Okay, I thought so.
So you would say, okay, that's one thing, Zenny, but what about Katie? And I would say, okay, I thought you might ask that. And so to continue the investigation, I went over to the page of his colleague, and it is right here, Katie Agasson, I believe it is. And unfortunately, it is the same story with her as it is with Everett. Okay, and let's go all the way up to the top so that you can see she's, is a
football stuff, right? There we go. And
she
golfs, she skis.
Right? Yeah, there she is. Okay, and there she is, and
she's reasonably photogenic, and there she is with some athletes and family and
all his family, unless your cousin tries to get you to wear, unless your cousin tries you by wearing a Vikings jersey, you just I guess that's her family or cousin.
Yeah, her cousin, yeah.
Okay, all right, and then there's more, innocent, but again, no black friends. She has no black friends.
If you're expecting me to be surprised, Zenny, I'm going to sadly disappoint you. I can muster zero surprise. Zero.
It's disappointing. I mean, I want to be wrong. Okay, and now maybe her excuse is, you're not looking at my whole life here, and it's not all there. But my point is that I've been in sports enough to know that in league circles, there is a tendency to hire, or there was a tendency to hire young white people who come up who have a very much a standard, almost frat and sorority type of viewpoint of the world,
right?
And that produced this. Okay,
and they usually have some sort of pre-existing connection to the league. In almost every example, you can find a family member or a family friend or whoever who said, "Hey, so and so's graduating from blah blah blah. They did an internship at blah blah blah. You should see them."
Now I have another concern though with Katie, and I hope I'm wrong, but I remember when I was at the Raiders game in this was against the Kansas City Chiefs, and I was waiting on a table at the Eat West Side Club, and I was ahead of a woman who said she worked for the Raiders. Actually, she and it was just all in black. She needed a table in a hurry, but she was really, 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 really rude to the mostly black wait staff, talking to them as if they, worked directly for her.
Sure.
Or dare I say that she was, they were her slaves, and made it quite clear that she worked for the Raiders, that she needed this now, had no idea who the longtime Oakland blogger was, standing right next to her.
Well, yeah.
And so this is what I did. I told Morris Bradshaw.
Oh.
Bradshaw.
It's a name I haven't heard in a while.
We use a business representative for the Raiders. I said, Morris, I don't normally enjoy doing this sort of thing, but you need to talk with her, because she talked with the hardworking Coliseum staffers in the West Side Club like they were junkyard dogs, and they handled it really well. And I said, that's a bad reflection on the team. I understand that she's, late and everything else. I didn't want to get in a confrontation with her. And maybe in retrospect, I should have just said, hey, you know what? They're just working really hard. But I thought I would teach her a lesson by simply saying nothing, and then having Morris circle back and talk to her, which he said he would do. And so there's a pattern of behavior here, I think, that if indeed they're the ones responsible for what we saw. And again, there's nobody else in the Raiders that is other than public relations that deals with social media. Okay. This is a pattern of behavior that would produce that kind of tweet.
Sure.
At an extremely sensitive moment. And they thought probably that they were sending the right message. But there was nobody to check them and say, wait, why don't you just put guilty? I mean, that's all they had to do. Hashtag guilty. End of story.
Sure.
No conversation. Boom. That's all they had to do.
I'm willing to bet that when the thing they put out, when they put that tweet out or whatever it was, I guess it was everywhere. I guess they put it on their website and a whole bunch of other places too, I guess. But
I didn't see it on the website.
Oh, okay. Well, I bet they were high fives all around the room. I bet they thought they nailed it, Zinni. I think they thought they killed it. Like, wow, we did it. Woo!
Chances are those high five. Chances are that feeling of euphoria lasted maybe a few seconds, because the tweets are immediately like, well, what are you doing?
What are you doing? Right? What are you doing? Right.
And
I have a 16-year-old daughter who could have done better. So that's not well done.
But this also reminds me of the whole conversation we had the other night about Nolan Milwaukee.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Also with the Raiders, also racially insensitive, if not, racist, as others have charged. And then of course Mike Mayock has. I've said, hey, I think Mike has racist problems in the past, and I said so after a meeting we had. I was interviewing him at Chelsea Piers, and I said to a number of people that he came off as if he wasn't interested in talking about technical football, and he seemed actually insulted that I had an idea that caused him to think, or that maybe as a black person I shouldn't know certain things. And he tried to dismiss my question, which is that at the time, this is the Chelsea Piers luncheon, which you remember, right? At 2009. And I asked him if he thought that innovation in football was percolating up from high school and college. And his answer was a very curt no, which if I felt like digging through the video, I'd bring it up. But it's on Zinni 62 on YouTube. I have a number, but his answer was, it didn't make any sense. His answer was basically no, because they had more time to work on a concept. Let me think about that.
Well,
the concept could be simple.
Right. Innovation doesn't have to be complex.
Well, my point is, just because it's you have more time to work on it doesn't mean it's more advanced. Just you have more time to work on something that could be like 60 years old. So he completely muffed the question.
Right.
And yet he thought that he knew more than I did. And I'm thinking, this guy doesn't know football at all.
Well,
that's what I'm
going to go that far, but I do think
I'll say something. When a person, I'll challenge even Mike, and this is how I feel. It's nothing personal against him, okay? Except I didn't like the way he treated me. My point is, he also did that with Lindsay Jones on the network. He belittled her when they were at Marcus Mariota's pro day, and I took note of it on a video, which is on Zinni 62. Do you know what she did when she saw me at Mike Silver's Super Bowl party in 2016? She gave me a wink and said, "Thank you." All right.
Well, here's what I will say.
And one more point. He did that, and this is also on video with Charles Davis. And I talked to Charles about it. I said, Charles.
Very patient man, Charles Davis. Yeah.
Great guy. This was when they were in the NFL draft in Chicago, and I just got back from home because I was in Chicago. And this was day 3. And lo and behold, every time Charles would say something, Mike would look down like this, like I'm not, and at first I thought nothing about it. But then, so when Mike Mayock would say something, Charles would perk up and, he would be listening, right? But on 4 occasions, Mike Mayock, every time Charles started talking, he'd do this. Like, I'm not listening to you. That's the visual he gave off. It was very disrespectful, and I called him out on it. Okay, so my point is, it's these expressions of "I know more than you," "I'm better than you," and it's okay because psychologically, maybe they think they can get away with it because they're white, that produced the problem that we're talking about today.
Right. Well,
and it's sad.
Getting back to my initial statement about clinging to and looking back and things like that, which is so interesting because for so long, especially, when Al was at his prime, he was the opposite of that, right? He was looking forward. He was embracing the future, chasing the future even. And to see that organization get frozen in time, sort of, not even before Al died, like sort of when Al stopped being Al to some extent, they froze the organization in time to some extent when Al started to lose a little bit. And that's where the organization still is. Like it stopped developing and growing, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where they still are, Zenny. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Like I'm going to go back to my original statement that the organization it's like a what do they call those? When you put a capsule, like a time capsule. Say, hey kids, you want to see what football used to be like? Come over to the Raiders and I will show you. And you crack open the capsule and it's like all these things that
I guess what bothers me at this time of reckoning is when you're involved in any world or like the NFL, everybody is part of that where you want to like because they're part of it. And that's certainly true for the Raiders. And so I don't say any of this with glee. I say this with extreme sadness, particularly because we're having this conversation on a day of reckoning. And as I was explaining earlier to my mother, I have a trauma from being put on a squad car by a highway patrol officer who I had actually went, and I mentioned this to you before, I went to him for help. Sure. And next thing I know, he says I was speeding. I said, no, I sped to get in front of you. The guy that was tailgating me went by you at 80. You didn't even zero in on him. Then he puts me on handcuffs like this. And I said, oh, you're going to, he said, and tears started, I had no control over my body. Tears started running down my face. And he said, oh, you're going to do that? How? He picks my whole body up and slams it on a squad car. I still haven't gotten over that. We had him come to court twice. Mm-hmm. And then my mom points out that when she was trying to get me out of jail, because they told, the cop had told the people, the system, as whatever, how they file it, they said that I resisted arrest. Yeah. I said, how can I resist arrest? I mean, by what? Being a hood ornament on his car? I mean, it's ridiculous. Yep. So, they made up everything. Oh, and what bothers me, well, that's the thing. Like you say shock, and everybody always, they take it as a given. That I want that destroyed. And the reason why I do is because, Bill, there's this giant mall that takes in black men in particular, mm-hmm. and it basically creates this caste system, yep. And people feed into it in tiny ways by saying, yep, that's the way it is, as opposed to what can we do to take it down, right? And this verdict happened because of this duty thing. Do you realize how many this past, not so much year, but if you take it in terms of pure chronological measure, year, sure. Do you realize that twice incidents that could have gone the other way didn't because of the smartphone? That one where Amy Cooper called the police on, Chris Cooper.
Oh, I'm sure it's more than two.
that are publicly, that are nationally, right? Okay.
I mean the case in Central Park, right, with the bird watcher.
That's Chris Cooper. Chris Cooper was the dude, Amy Cooper was the girl. Right. Okay. And then I've been lied about. People lied about stuff about me, and I'm like, I didn't do that. And so what happens is that I think it happens so much to us that we're not only hardwired to it, that our first reflexive is to blame the black man that was victimized. Like, oh, you had to do something wrong. like Deshaun Watson, oh, you had to do something wrong. You didn't think he did anything wrong, right? I mean, and okay, maybe his I think what is going to come out that's wrong about this is that maybe he was paying for sex with Instagram girls who were not what they said they were. That's the thing, okay? But yep. But it was consensual sex. All right? But my point is that, and the question remains, who set this up to make this black guy look bad, or at least take what he was doing out there and then strike the match, light the wick, like Mission Impossible, head to this explosives that looks like Tony Busby, who has a track record of doing that to black men.
Sure. And yeah, he's been doing it's not new, right? This is not new for him.
Yeah.
What I will say, and I'm going to let this case, encourage the case of Deshaun Watson, play out, and we'll find out, what there is. What I can tell you, and I'm sure you won't be shocked to learn this, there is a mentality, and it's not just a black thing; it's an athlete thing, that some of these guys get to the point where they feel like they're sort of entitled. And let's say you start with the whole thing where you're getting massage therapists to whatever, and then you start sort of losing a sense of there's a line. And so somebody says, "Oh, I'm a massage therapist," and they say, like, "No, I'm gonna let you know, like, this is like I have a license, went to school for this," and then you do your sort of usual routine, and the person says, "Hey, this isn't what I'm here for." I get the feeling that he stops at some point, but it may have still been enough for that person to be very frightened and offended.
But here's the thing: I don't think they were offended at all.
Well, I can't people's minds. I don't know what they felt.
The reason why I don't is the frightened number of people. First of all, what happened to Fred Lane, as I've talked about, A. B, throughout our culture, there are many examples of people lying about each other. And I understand there are people who say, believe women, but look, I never said don't believe women. What bothers me is there is a activist group or quasi-activist group that says, believe that person, believe that woman just because she's a woman regardless. And it comes from white women who should be defending black men. And at the same time, it happened right at the era where the woman that was responsible for the death of Emmett Till at the beginning of the era came through and said that she lied. She admitted in 2007 she lied in Vanity Fair.
Right.
Over the collective head of the country, not mine. Because my thought is, wait a minute, you lied, and then everyone's telling us to believe her. And here you, as a woman who was responsible for the death of a black kid,
yes,
who sparks the Civil Rights Amendment, it now admits that you did lie, and we knew you lied to begin with. Okay, that should be alarm bells. Okay, it should not be something that's excused. And my point is, believe nobody. Do the investigation, do the homework, do the analysis. I don't care where the feelings are. Okay,
right.
Make sure you know what you're doing before you do it.
Yep.
And don't shut us down from asking questions, because Amy Cooper could have gotten Chris Cooper beaten up or killed.
Or killed, yes, right.
Last year.
Which was her intention, to get him beaten up or killed, yes.
Yeah. Why? Because she got mad that he was telling her to put a leash on a doggone dog who she happened to be, wringing his neck like it was a rag doll to begin with. And we saw that on the magic of smartphones, right? So, I mean, we've got to insist on organizations that are far more culturally sensitive than now. And I realize that they've been ignited by Trump and everything, but you know what? It's time to admit that Manchurian president was just that, and we made a giant mistake and stop enabling the people who follow him and don't even know what they're doing. I mean, we've gotten in big trouble because of that, man. Ugh. What do you think?
Well, here's where things are and have been. So, I'm sure I've mentioned this before. When my mother went back to law school, I was in 4th grade, and I became her study buddy. So I didn't go to law school, but I certainly held a lot of law books in my childhood and quizzed my mother on all the various things about procedure and precedent and all sort of stuff. My mother was later the first black and the first woman Commonwealth's attorney for the city of Chesapeake in the state of Virginia. And I got to be around the process a lot. I also, one time when I was in 8th grade, locked myself out of the house and the police got called on me. So I'm standing outside my own house trying to figure out so I'm over here on the side of the house where my bedroom is, thinking, did I leave my window cracked enough that I might be able to and get in? And sure enough, there are the police. And so I don't have any ID because I'm 13 years old or whatever. So I'm just trying to explain, I live here, and they're, like, who can verify that? It's like, well, my sister's not home yet. My parents will get home in a couple of hours. So I'm, sitting in and of course, this is way before cell phones also, Zenny. The year is like 1980, 81. So I'm sitting here in the back of a squad car, and I'm thinking, man, this is going to be hard to explain. Luckily, right, the next door neighbor says, the Carrolls moved in a few months ago. His name's Billy. He lives there, whatever. It's like I explained, I locked myself out. But you'll get me someplace where I can call my mom or call my dad. They'll come and they'll let me back in. So luckily, my neighbor verified that I was who I was, and they took me down. They let me make a phone call, and my parents yelled at me for locking myself out of the house. And luckily, nothing terrible happened, but it was scary. It was very scary, and they had that classic, 1 inch above the butt of their service revolvers thing going the whole time. Like if I made a bad move, it might have gone very differently. But once again, I knew, my mother had the talk that you have to have with your black son several times. And so I modulated my voice tone very carefully. I, made no sudden movements at all. I moved as if I were on like a sedative the entire time. I made just enough eye contact to not seem shifty, but not too much, because then you'll seem like you're, aggressive. It's a very delicate dance, as you probably already know. The fact is that there is a guilt that is automatically attached to you if you are a young black man in America. Anytime something happens that breaks that little veneer, that little thing, because not that long ago, Deshaun Watson was being mentioned as one of the, faces of not just his franchise, but the NFL as a whole. And then Pat Mahomes came along and kind of shifted him. But
hey, remember that famous video where Watson is breaking down the coverages before the press?
Yes. Well, he's doing that because he needs these people to understand I'm not just some athlete playing quarterback. Mm-hmm. But this was a person who the NFL had invested in as a whole to some extent. And it's a real test. This is a test. People talk about things testing. This is a test. This is a test of the will of the organization. It's a test of, the quote unquote court of public opinion, the ever popular court of public opinion, and the actual legal system. Now, this is a civil suit, obviously. A civil suit. There have been, I think, 2 now criminal complaints as well. But they're going to, once again, take whatever course they take. And then the civil suits, I think.
I'm sorry. I had to laugh at that one.
Yeah. I think, frankly, if I were advising Deshaun Watson, I would advise him to settle the civil suits.
Well, no.
Because even if you win, do you win?
Yeah, you do. You win by not paying.
Well, I know what you're saying about that, Zenny, but
in the wake of what happened today, no, you fight it out. And
okay.
This is a battle, Bill. This is a battle.
Oh, I know it's a battle, but not every battle is worth fighting.
No, there it is. Yes, it is. Because once again, we've had another example of a black quarterback, not an athlete, but a quarterback, who is the focus of an incident that is essentially racially divisive. It shouldn't be, but it is. And it's like Jameis Winston, where for reasons that I get in politics, which is why I'm so adamantly opposed to what you're suggesting, they wind up in the Daily Caller and conservative blogs are driving opinions about Jameis Winston. I'm saying, sure. What the heck? You say, sure. I'm saying, my point is, I'm saying this to this day. Why? Why are you guys in that? And as a person who has experience working with these folks, that happens because they want you to be a tool to help them engineer a certain thought in society. Well, why would they pick a black quarterback if for no other reason, the fact that black quarterback is high profile and it helps them advance an agenda. That's why. And so and the agenda just happens to work against black men, and it keeps that gigantic Mao in existence that we have to destroy. Okay, this is an intellectual battle. It's not the common on the street, pitchforks and everything else and flames and all that stuff. This is an intellectual and a technical battle that we're waging, and a lot of us don't even know that we're in it, and a lot of us don't own media companies to be driven to do it. And point to me a nonprofit. Zenny to me is a for-profit that's African American that's committed to doing what I'm talking about. There's none. That in of itself is intellectually criminal.
Sure.
And so, but there needs to be that, because if you go back through history and you think of social media as an archaeological dig, there are example after example after example after example after example of attempts to make black men look bad. Look how many times you have somebody conservative reach for Chicago crime or FBI statistics.
Well, all these. The thing is, okay, I live in Chicago, Denny, and have for several years. Chicago hasn't been number one in, at least for a whole year, in murder rate in quite some time. They should pick another city. Quite frankly,
you won't show me a conservative person that doesn't at all think or use it. They immediately go to this FBI stuff, and I say, "Hey, have you actually looked at the number one perpetrators of hate crimes against black folks? They're white. That's an FBI statistic too." I'm saying, and my point is that there is this, and when you dig deeper to find out where they got it from, they say, "Oh, I heard it on Fox," or okay, that's my point.
Yeah.
In order to fight that, you cannot get into the idea of saying, for example, that Deshaun has to settle.
I don't. He has to. I'm just saying that sometimes you pick your battles. That's all I'm saying.
And this is a battle that he has to pick. I've said this.
The criminal case, if one comes about, he has to fight that.
No, I've said this to his PR people who've given me, stories to write. I've said this to people that are connected with him. I said, look, you're not fighting for the guy. And fighting means you have to alter reality. You have to alter reality to the point where the other side believes, hey, you know what? This guy's got a chance. He didn't do anything wrong. That's what this is about. It's a battle for the public mouth. And you have to be willing to try to control it, or you don't win. I'm giving some free PR advice to a lot of people. Okay. That's where we are today. If you don't do it, somebody else is going to do it either against you or in a way that hurts you. And that's where we're at.
Right. But we both saw Rebecca Solis's press conference, right?
Ashley
Solis. We both saw Ashley Solis's press conference, right?
I have it here on Zenny 62. I have it recorded.
Right. So we both saw it.
For a particular purpose.
Sure. We both saw it. And whether or not, and once again, it's obviously going to be difficult because there's only two people in the room. It's not like there's really evidence that one can present.
Yes, there is.
Well,
I'm sorry. I was formulating the answer before you finished. Finish your thought.
Well, okay. So the only things that are in that room, right, are two individuals, a towel that apparently at some point left his body, her body, and the things that she brought with her to, do a massage session. So unless somebody has audio or video recordings, there's not a lot that can be offered. You could.
But here's the thing, though. Okay. In 3 different cases, there were security guards that told the attorneys, and they just started investigating. They're not done. Hey, you know what? Yeah. Nothing happened. And if something happened, security people would have been called. And in Ashley's case, Ashley got on camera, and I have it, and said that her business suffered. But I also have the records online proving her business did not suffer. That in and of itself was a lie. So the question is, hey, wait, you start pulling the strings and watching this thing unravel. So you say, okay, that lie comes out. What's next? Oh, this one. What next? This one, okay? And eventually the argument starts to fall apart. I say this, I've said this before, I'll say it again. If Fred Lane Jr., my cousin, were live today and shot by his wife with social media, he would have been killed twice. First by his wife, second by social media, and it made the prosecution's job of proving that he did nothing and that she robbed the bank and that she killed him that much harder because he's black. And my point is that system must be destroyed if we are to realize a better future post George Floyd. Otherwise, it's for naught.
Sure.
We have to destroy that system.
Well, I mean, systematic racism is something I don't understand why people. I don't even bother saying systematic racism because racism is by its very nature systematic. But here's the thing I was saying. So there was no drop off in the number of sessions she was booking, is what you're saying. She was booking the same number of sessions before and after the incident.
There was no example, assuming of course the incident occurred when it did. There was no example at all of her losing business. There was no example of trauma.
Well, you can't prove whether or not she suffered trauma.
No, you want when we go and play the tape? Play it right here.
Here's what I'm telling you. You can't prove whether someone suffered trauma. I mean, there's people who are suffering trauma and you would never know, is what I'm pointing out.
My point is, she said, and see, here's the difference between you and I. I want to prove that she's not telling the truth.
Oh, I'm motivated to do that as well. What I'm pointing out is
I'm not motivated. I want to because I don't believe it.
Okay. Well, here's what I'm saying. You can't tell when someone suffered trauma or not. Like there's people.
But here's my point. You asked me a question I didn't get a chance to ask.
Okay.
She said her business suffered, Bill. There is no evidence in her own social media postings that her business suffered.
Well, hold on. You're saying social media postings, but that's not her financials, Zenny.
Yeah, it is. Because you have her clients writing consistently about their service that they got from her.
They're writing about it, right? But it doesn't show how many bookings and what she was paid.
But it shows that she had quite a bit of them. That's what, and not only that, I'm not the only person to make this point. Thousands have.
Sure. I'm not even disputing. That's not what's in dispute. Like, in order to establish whether or not her business suffered, you would take more than the social media post. You would have to.
Did though.
Right, but here's what I'm saying.
Hold on a second. Did she file for bankruptcy? When you say your business suffered, did she get a PPP loan? All right.
Maybe. I mean,
every massage business suffered. You don't know why in Texas. You want to know why?
Well, because of COVID-19, yeah.
Because more than that, the state said they had to shut down.
Right.
Yeah. So there is a woman I'm trying to get on my show who's refused me, named Professor Vanessa Boucher, who wrote the book A Massage Therapist in Houston, a study where in 2017 she asserted that there are over 200 active massage therapists behaving illegally. In other words, prostitutes.
Sure.
Under the color of being a massage therapist. Yeah. All right.
Right. Well, once again, not really news, but yes, I would imagine that's the case.
But it's news. No, it is news. It's news. That's quite, from a legal perspective, it's quite relevant to this case. She could be called as an expert witness,
and probably will be. I would think.
I don't know, but the whole point is that I put her name out there already. So if you Google her name and you go to news, you'll find Oakland News Now.
Mm.
She said directly to me by email when I reached out to get her on that I had misapplied her research because she specifically had said that she was talking about only unlicensed massage therapists.
Mm-hmm.
So here comes Erica Chapman, who says she is a massage therapist. But in the lawsuit, right, it's written clearly in black and white that she is unlicensed.
Right.
Also, the lawsuit says she lives in Houston. She doesn't live in Houston. She lives in Katy, Texas.
Right.
When I looked her up,
which is where Roger Clemens is from, and Annie Dalton.
That doesn't matter. That has nothing to do with anything right now.
Right, but I know where Katie is. Yes.
She scrubbed her LinkedIn. Okay, now if you believe that you're telling the truth and you don't mind having your name out there, like so many of Gloria Allred's clients, you don't scrub your social media. You scrub your social media because you don't want to find out. You don't want people finding out what it is you really did, or anything that's about you that
Right.
could.
Well, that was my original hypothesis. That said that.
And not only that, I assert this: Tony Busby was the one who had her do it because he's orchestrating all these and has his imprimatur. None of these folks were sophisticated enough to say, "I'm going to scrub my social media." His staff stepped in. That much is clear.
Yeah,
because,
well, I don't know that to be fact, but it sounds like something I believe would happen in that situation.
There's enough circumstantial evidence to feed an elephant with this stuff. Several elephants.
Right.
Okay?
The circumstantial evidence is just that. It's circumstantial. I mean,
but if I find enough of it and it keeps coming up, at some point, the whole case crumbles.
Maybe. So here's what I'm saying. At some point, when this really happens, you're going to have to pull people's financials, and that's how you'll know. That's how you'll know. You're not going to go by their Instagram. You're not going to go by their Snapchat or whatever. You're going to go by the actual factuals, right? So, having grown up in the home of a prosecutor, and once again, I don't know who's going to be actually handling the criminal side of this, and they're very early on in the process, like you said.
The police could turn around and say there's no case.
They're going to look at obviously all of the complainants, right? At least on the criminal side. They won't be involved in anything on the civil side. And if you are a professional athlete who has access to, first of all, in the facility, you have access to massage pretty much any time you want it. If you're going not only off the books or whatever to somebody else, and you're going to an unlicensed person, as you like to say about, if there's enough circumstantial, the chances are that you're doing it for a very specific reason because you have a whole list of.
Yeah, but there's a problem.
But
there's a problem that
here's what I'm saying. You have, in addition to the people that actually work for the Texans, they also have like an approved list of people. They say you can go to this person, this person, this person. We're all licensed, obviously, right? So, because a few times he was referred by the Texans to a licensed massage therapist when he didn't use their on-site people. I'm just saying that when you have on-site people who are clearly licensed, and many of them have specific additional endorsements for athletic specific stuff, and then you have a list of registry, or we would call it, of licensed people that the Texans will recommend if you are on the road or whatever it is, right? I'm not, once again, since you're like drawing inferences here, apparently, when you're specifically saying, no, I'm not going to any of them, right? I'm going to someone who is not licensed, right? And I found them not through a referral or for anything else. I like the way they looked when I looked at their Instagram feed. There's something there. Something's going on there, right? So he may be guilty of nothing more than bad judgment, quite frankly, but he's definitely guilty of bad judgment because there's ways to do this, right? I just like you, we both know loads of professional athletes. I got to know Tommy Harris reasonably well. He and I had the same personal trainer. There's a protocol that's in place usually when you go to somebody outside of the club's control for chiropractic, for whatever it is, for almost anything. And he deviated from that process pretty seriously, Zenny, right? I think we all would stipulate to that. And whether or not he did it purely for sexual reasons, it's clear that he did it at least because he found some people attractive. Right. I mean, because
the problem I have with this though is there's a lot of assumptions going on here.
But you made a lot of assumptions too.
Bill, the one thing you can't deny is that we're talking about things that occurred in the middle of a pandemic. And
right.
Well, but think it through. If Deshaun Watson supposedly got massaged or could get massaged by the Texans, then why the hell did they cancel the Earl Thomas workout? It was the pandemic. So they're not going to do a workout with Earl Thomas or not do it and then turn around and say, oh, we'll take care of you just like it's, 2019. No.
Well, they still were. Okay.
There's another problem here, okay? Also, The state was ordering massage organizations to stop. All right?
The Texans were still.
That's an assumption. You're
Well,
making an assumption.
I'm telling you the part that's not an assumption. Here's what happened with not just the Texans, NFL teams across the board for players that needed a variety of physical services. They had to reduce the number of personnel, both player personnel and non-player personnel. So instead of having 8 guys, it would be 1 guy or whatever coming in at a time. And yes, they had to take extra special precautions, including masking and disinfecting and a bunch of other things.
Because they had to reduce their staff. Guess what? Those masseuses that might be available for you are not there. So guess what you got to do? You got to go outside the club. Okay.
Well, here's what I'm saying. They still had it available. It was just that there was more steps involved, including making an appointment. You're a researcher. You'll find all the protocols, Zenny. They're all there.
You said something that you just made yourself sound illogical. First of all, you said yes, you did. You said that you admitted that there were fewer people, right?
Of course there are. You have to reduce the number.
If you have to reduce the number, that means you have less people to serve the same number of football players. That means you can't serve them effectively. That means they have to go outside the organization to get served.
Right, which is why they established the aforementioned registry we talked about before of licensed people, which I also addressed.
That registry does not exist.
They had a referral list, whatever you want to call it.
No, they don't. They do not have a formal referral list.
Well, whether it's formal or not, they provided it.
No, they didn't.
They did.
Prove it. Prove it.
Give me a moment.
Prove the Houston Texans have their own list of licensed massage therapists they sent Deshaun Watson to.
I don't think it was him specific. I think it was to whoever, but
no, I mean specific. This has to be specific to this because of the claim. Because
if they give it to all the players, then you know what I mean? Like it. Okay, give me a second.
But look, from a standpoint of queuing theory, you're written a queuing theory model. To forecast how a line is going to be, a person is going to be in line depending on who can service them. I have. That's queuing theory, Bill. And queuing theory says you have fewer people to service people in line. Guess what? Some of them are not going to wait. They're going to leave because it takes too long. All right.
I'm understanding what you're saying, but let me.
And not only that, there's also written examples where the Texans provided Watson with facilities to also set him up. Bless you. Could it be the Texans also set him up? All right. Because even Tony Busby, I think a week ago, dropped the beans that the Texans may be involved. He said that. And people are making these assumptions about Tony Busby. Tony Busby is a crazy lawyer. Tony Busby's the kind of guy that will sue his own client if his client fires him because he's done that before. Tony Busby's the kind of guy who will actually not tell you, oh, I'm representing all these people. But it turns out he's representing half of them, and the other half, another law firm got because they found them in a Spanish flea market. These are true stories. No one researches this guy, and what they do is they take their own prejudices and they take Tony Busby's truth out of it, and they insert their own, and it makes Tony Busby look better. Come on, man. Bad stuff. Bad stuff. So I'm saying my point is this. Because I got a jet in 5 minutes, and we should pick this up tomorrow. This is a great conversation. Part 2 coming, folks. Score: Zenny 500, Bill nothing.
Well, if you're in charge of the score, of course I'm gonna have no shot, Zenny. But I guess it's sort of like the old Von Meter joke about the Kennedy brothers touch football game. Well, Bobby, we play touch football. We play by my rules, and you know why. No, Jack, why? Because it's my football, Bobby. But yeah, so November 9th, the Texans, did their normal COVID-19 testing, all the teams, whatever.
Where are you reading?
They have so I'm looking at a ESPN story dated Oh God, what day was it dated? 12 April 2021.
Okay.
I can send you the link in a second, but let me see. What's the? Yeah, so it's so of the 22 women involved.
2001 or
9.
20?
I'm sorry, 20. No, 2021. 12. Yeah,
Okay.
April. So of the women involved, as we mentioned earlier, 9 were licensed massage therapists. 13 either are working on it or are, just non-licensed, whatever term you want to use. And then,
What's your point, though?
well, hold on. You asked about I'm trying to find there's a quote here from, who is this person's name, about the Texans' referrals.
Is this an explaining and doing narratives about many massages? Is that
Yeah, and if you come down to paragraph number, hold on, let me count. Where am I?
You believe this?
Well, I'm not looking for whether I believe someone or not. Is it Dr. Ball? No.
My point is that, see, ESPN drew this from Tony Busby's writings, okay? That's why I don't believe it. This is them vomiting up Tony Busby's part of the case, which gets back to my main point.
Right. Well, but
my point is that Tony Busby is being allowed to carve a narrative that makes a black guy look bad, and the media is just lapdogging and helping him do it without.
Right. But they to their credit, they also bring up, and they have 2 or 3 different massage therapists that say, "Hey, it's totally normal and natural for some people to have an erection." Somebody said,
That's the point we're talking about. We're talking specifically about the question of whether or not the Texans, okay,
right. And that's
an approved document, and I'm telling you, they didn't.
Okay, so like I said, whether it's a document or not, they have people that they refer them to.
No proof of that.
I don't know if it's a document.
No,
but
it's all informal. Okay, there's nothing where the person goes and gets certified by the Texans. There should be.
Oh, I didn't say. Well, I agree. There should be. I didn't say certified. I said that they say these are the people.
It's so informal
or whatever.
It's so informal that it allows subterfuge to creep in. It's so informal and unprofessional that it allows an unsuspecting, very young, out-of-college black kid to get caught up looking like he's done the wrong thing, when in point of fact, he didn't do anything wrong at all.
Well, I mean, obviously that remains to be seen.
No. And then on top of that, how come no one wants to mention that, hey, you had, and this is what I was trying to explain to Professor Boucher, you had people who were unlicensed and licensed massage therapists working outside their normal conditions in a number of examples, if you want to believe Tony Busby's documents, which I do not, and I believe they need to be investigated, okay? Because COVID set up an environment that was out of the norm. There was nothing normal. You don't work, you have to take protocols, and really, according to the state, you shouldn't be working at all. And so they're doing this undercover. They need extra money. And so what's to stop any one of them? Why do we have to assume that they're perfect? From cutting corners?
We don't. We don't have to assume that at all.
Cutting corners?
But also they don't have to be, right?
And here's the catch, though. Supposedly there's NDA documents. If they're NDA documents that they can produce, that wipes out Tony Busby's case. Why? Because the existence of an NDA means that it was indeed consensual sex. Game over.
Well,
it's not a matter of
doesn't mean you consented to sex necessarily, Zen. That's not what it means.
Yeah, it does. And you know it.
No, it does not.
Yeah, it
means that you agreed not to talk. It doesn't mean that you agreed to have sex.
Anybody, we're standing in a room full of 1,000 people, they'll be yelling at you. You know what that means, Bill.
No, it means that you said you wouldn't talk about this. It doesn't necessarily mean that you agreed to have sex with me. And it doesn't mean that we even had sex. I mean, it doesn't go to the action that took place. It goes to after the action, right? It's ex post facto. It's after whatever happened.
No, that's bullshit. You know it. You know that.
But I know. No, what is it? All an NDA, and now you're doing the thing that you shouldn't be doing. You're taking this and going up to here. An NDA simply means you agreed not to talk about it. Doesn't mean that you said, "Oh yeah, you can do whatever to me." That's not what an NDA means.
Well,
an NDA means you won't talk about it.
You ever written an NDA?
I have sat in on the writing.
I run a company. I have to have NDAs written up. My NDAs are very specific about what is not to be talked about.
Right.
Okay.
I would hope.
Well, then you just admitted that there's the possibility that they've said they're not going to talk about having sex.
Well, they're not going to talk about something. I mean, who knows what it says they said they wouldn't talk about.
An NDA, and the NDA is very specific about what you don't talk about.
Right. But we haven't, since we haven't seen the NDA, we don't know what it's, if there's an NDA, we don't know what it says.
And that's why I am dying for them to push this. Okay? I want to produce those things. If I'm representing Watson, I want that out there. Why? Because I think they're lying. I'm certain.
And they may well be. But all I'm pointing out is
in a giant shakedown is what it is.
It might be a combination. It might be a shakedown for some, and some of those women might have very much felt like they were harassed or violated. Like, we'll find this out.
None of them did, okay?
Well, we don't know that, Cindy. Like, we don't know that.
It's coming quite clear. Because there's your idea of what harassment is, which is different, which is in your mind, okay? But even when you start looking at the details of what Tony Buzzy wrote, that's like, it's salacious and everything, but first of all, it didn't occur. And secondly, what? And third, Watson has evidence of women coming back to his house for more, including Erica Chapman, who is unlicensed, who lives in Cape.
Well, I mean, you didn't hear me defending Erica Chapman. I don't. As I said before, I think there's a mixture of women, and I think some of these women, for whatever reason, felt like they were wronged, and some of them, I'm sure, right, and it's probably a mix.
No, I think getting in on the action, what Tony Busby did was what a classic trial attorney does. God, I'm supposed to call my friend. Is what a classic trial attorney does. He or she reaches for the fences,
right?
Tries to get all these clients in, and if their case is a little bit shaky, they massaged it. Okay, all right. They massaged it. All right. Look at this. This is the reason for this. Okay, they massage this. All right. They massage it to make it look like they've got a case against you.
But you always try to build. You know, it's just.
Nah, I don't think always. I'm talking about.
But I'm here today. You're trying to throw a lot of things at the other party, right? Because you're trying to get a bigger settlement. That's
you throw a lot of things.
Standard procedures in.
Not exactly, because the lawyer already doesn't do it.
Well,
okay, and she's
never. I'm saying, if you're
not only that, I've interviewed her 5 times at Zenny 62. But we got to wrap this up because I got to go.
Yeah, I got to go too. But the only point I'm making is that I think there's some people who are like riding on coattails. I truly do believe that. I also believe there's some people that, whether they're right or not, do feel genuinely wronged. And we'll find this out, obviously, who's who and what's what. I would like the process to play out.
And I think they're all acting.
Well, we'll find out, right? That's what the process is for. Yep. We will find out. That's why there's a process in place.
I think they're acting for a huge payday during a pandemic because they don't have any money.
I'm sure that's probably the case for some of them. I don't know if it's the case for all of them. We'll find this out.
Folks, we'll be back. Subscribe to Zenny 62. Bookmark Oakland News.
And you can see Zenny own me some more.
I don't know if I own him. It's a great, but regardless of who owns what, I do think it's a conversation that needs to be had.
It is a conversation that needs to be had
at this juncture, because it's we're at an amazing tipping point in this society, and we got to make sure.
Again, right? We have another chance at this because then we had a chance in '68, right? We had a chance in 1866. We keep getting these chances, and thus far we've blown it.
We keep blowing it. Exactly. So we can't blow it this time, man.
Well, I would hope. I have a daughter, right? I would like for her not to have to go through all this stuff that I had to go through growing up. So that'd be awesome if we get it worked out.
So this is for your daughter and my daughter that I'm hopefully will have one day if I get
married.
Yes. All right. Exactly. I gotta go before I get killed.
Yeah, we both have to go, but it was a pleasure. I'll talk to you soon, Zen.
You got it, soon. All right, see ya. See you, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Bill.
Good night.
Cool.